Hello, and welcome to Twisted Remedies. This is a show about the power and importance of Jiu Jitsu in trauma recovery and fitness and so many other aspects of life. Training Jiu Jitsu has been a huge part of my healing, but there are so many other things that everyday people rely on to heal, rebuild, strengthen, and grow. The conversations we're going to have are meant to explore all of those twisted remedies. I'm Justin Kucher, your host on this exploration. I'm a retired cop, lifelong musician, jiu-jitsu practitioner, and a cancer and trauma survivor. Let's jump right in and talk about our twisted remedies. Thank you, everyone. I'm so glad to have you here for the first episode, maiden voyage of Twisted Remedies. This is going to be an evolving conversation for the foreseeable future on trauma, on jiu-jitsu, on the benefits of jiu-jitsu on trauma. We're going to talk about music and where that fits into just well-being, any other thing that people are looking to help them heal or to help them just improve, grow, strengthen, all the things you heard in the intro. That is the focus of this, is to really explore some of those things, talk to people who know about them, and hopefully that information benefits everyone listening. So obviously the main focus of this for me is the jiu-jitsu side of things, because all of the other stuff that I'll talk about in a little bit about kind of what got me here, really, jiu-jitsu is one of the biggest pieces of that puzzle that I can't, to this day, I can't really explain the impact it's had and the benefit that I have seen from it. But that's going to be at the core of a lot of what we talk about. If you're not on the mats, you should be. If you were on the mats and you stopped for whatever reason, get back on the mats. If you do train, that's great. Keep training. There is, I look at it, there are no bad days in jiu-jitsu. Anyway, I'm here because I learned the hard way that trauma is kind of a thing that we all need to be paying attention to. I was a police officer when I retired in 22, 21 and 22. We'll talk about that later. But when I got done in 22, that was almost 24 years, just shy of 24 years of law enforcement. And that career, was everything from patrol work to kind of investigations and supervisory. It had a little bit of everything in it. And I didn't really, early on, and at that time, I started in the late 90s, and back then, you were okay. You didn't, if you went to a bad call, you didn't really talk about it. You just kind of swallowed it all down and went to the next thing, and you were just expected to be fine. And that worked, that worked for me for quite a while until it didn't. I found myself, many years, probably 18-ish years into my career, and the bank of things that had not been processed, not been dealt with, had finally built up to the point where it was becoming a problem. And fortunately for me, I had just the right people around before things got bad. But at some point, you really just can't carry any more of that, and you have to find a way to get out from under it. I'm sure I'll get into more of the details and nuance of that, of my own kind of personal story as we work through the shows down the road. But I think that'll likely come up more just as part of conversations I'm having with people. I don't plan, my plan for this first episode was not to sit here and just talk about, trauma and my own story. This is really to lay the foundation of where is this going, what are we doing, and why are we doing it? And by we, of course, I mean me, because I'm the only one sitting here right now. But really, it comes down to, at some point, that ignored or unprocessed or undealt with, whatever title you want to put on it, that trauma is going to come back, and it's going to come back with a vengeance. Finding that way to recovery and healing from that is so important. For me, it ended up being, I had to find the right therapist. I had spoken to somebody previously. It wasn't a good fit, and which I didn't realize at the time, but when I found the right one, it was such a good fit that it just made all the difference. And the timing of that was crucial too. Whether it's a therapist, a counselor, a pastor, clergy, a confidant, a life coach, whoever that person is for you, that is so crucial to have that connection. So that's one of the things that, as the show evolves, we'll be talking to mental health clinicians, counselors, people in that field. We're going to be talking about fitness. For me, I started, I was heavier than I wanted to be. I think I was at like 210. And I started running. I've never been a big runner. Of course, I ran in the military when they were yelling at me. I ran in the police academy when they were yelling at me. But here I found myself motivated, and I was going to go start running, just to get myself in better shape. And I really kind of jumped all in. I started enjoying it, which I never thought I would do. But at the peak of it, I was, which was probably 2018, I was running about 12 miles a week, which to real runners out there is not much. But, at that point I was in my mid to late 40s. And that was for me, that was quite an achievement. And so running was working for me really well. But it wasn't clearing the trauma. It was really just helping me achieve some fitness goals. And I wasn't getting the full experience from it. And then along comes Jiu Jitsu. In 2020, December 2nd of 2020, actually my son's birthday, I went to my first Jiu Jitsu class. I had heard, I knew about Jiu Jitsu from the UFC, from watching that, Royce Gracie, all of this stuff. I liked watching MMA. I liked watching grappling, but I didn't, and so I thought I knew what it was. I knew what a triangle was. I knew what an armbar was. I knew what mount and guard were, but I only by title. I certainly had no knowledge of what to do with them, why they were effective, any of the things that I'm grasping now that I've been training for a little bit. So I went to my first class. It was a law enforcement only class that was sponsored by the department and the gym I still train at. And it was such an eye-opening experience that I still tell the story to people today, that my instructor now was a purple belt at the time. He was like one of the guys helping run the class with our head instructor. And I probably outweigh him by 30 or 40 pounds at the time. He got on top of me, and it felt like there was a car engine sitting on me, and I had no explanation for this. At this point, I had been on, I've been a police officer for probably 20 years at that point. And I was always a talker. I tried to avoid, getting into it with people physically, because it just really wasn't fun. Everybody got hurt. You look like a yard sale. All your equipment falls off. But I was, when it happened, I felt like I could handle myself pretty well. And maybe I was lucky for my whole career that 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 was the outcome I had. But I had no answer for what this person significantly smaller than me was doing, and it shook me to my core. And I said, I everything I thought I knew from watching, UFC and whatever, I had to I had to get my head around this and start learning it. So that was, that's where kind of jujitsu fits into the picture for me. It was a huge kind of paradigm shift of just immersing myself in that. All of that came together and whipped me into shape. The draw and the allure of jujitsu for me, I think, was I had been under this really kind of dark cloud and was really not in a good place mentally from all the trauma and just stuff, right? All that stuff that we put into the backpack every day. But I started noticing the mental health benefits almost immediately when I started training. I had also lost a bunch of the weight I was looking to lose. The caveat to that is, as we'll get into later, turns out some of that weight loss was not by my hard work. I was actually, I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that I was unaware of, that down the road I was diagnosed with, and it explained the extraordinary fitness weight loss that I thought I had achieved. But we'll get into that another time for sure. I think the other part of the draw and the allure was the cerebral kind of mental chess part of jiu-jitsu made it so that you leave everything else at the door when you get there. You had a bad day, you show up for class, you just, all of that for me and for a lot of people I've talked to, that goes out the window, and you're not able to, or you just don't think about that stuff. And for me, that was very freeing. So where are we going with this show? What's the deal? I'm very outspoken about self-care, and especially, my kind of personal journey through this has really given me a desire to talk to people and get people who may be in the same spot I was in, or a similar spot, or headed that way, or maybe they've been kind of in that spot for a while and don't know how to get out. I think recognizing trauma and its power is incredibly important, and the earlier, the better. And whether, again, as I said at the opening, whether it's jiu-jitsu that helps you get out of that, or one of these other things, I'm calling this Twisted Remedies because obviously with jiu-jitsu you're folding clothes with people in them, and there's a lot of twists and turns and in so many ways. And so I thought the name was fitting, but really this is also about all of these other things that people do, whether it's I started doing ice baths last year and find that incredibly useful and helpful. And there's others that CBD is a thing, and obviously fitness is a thing. So just finding what your thing is and letting it guide you out of the the crevice of trauma and whatever you're dealing with. So, I think that self-care is important. I think we'll also talk about, for the people who don't already train, how do you find a place? How do you find the right place? There's some material out there about finding a trauma-informed jiu-jitsu academy. But I think that same criteria can be applied to if you're going to work out at a gym, finding a healthy gym environment, finding the right group of people to run with. All of those things can tie into whatever your twisted remedy is, or the thing that draws you and leads you out. For me, music is another big one. I've been playing music since I was a kid. And I think that's been a great outlet for me for years. But at some point that wasn't enough, and that's where some of this other stuff really kind of helped out. So, it's certainly good to have more than one. We're going to talk about EMDR. It's a eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's a form of therapy that is, I don't know how new it is. That's why we'll have somebody on that knows about it to talk about it. But it's been very helpful for me. It's been helpful for other people I know. And so I think that's worth talking about. So, there's a lot of stuff we're going to get into. But all of this is really just to get this conversation about wellness and, getting your mental health dialed in, so that you're around for the people around you. I'm interested in what in what topics anybody listening wants to cover. Maybe there's something that you're doing and you're like, other people have to know about this because this has worked amazing for me, and this is the thing, and I think that's worth sharing. So my goal is to have, again, we're going to have, it's not just going to be me talking because I'm already over that. So, I plan on having some guests on. There'll be some really, hopefully some good conversation that we can get some information out and get people all thinking the right way. If there's a guest that you think I should have on, I'm very much interested in who out there has the information that we can connect with and share. The bottom line of this whole thing is, if you or someone else is struggling with trauma or with depression, any of anxiety, any of these things, do something. That's the goal of this whole thing. So I hope to work through that together with some of the guests and some of the conversations. And that's really what's driving this whole thing. At the end of the day, I am very glad to be where I'm at. I look back on where I was, and it's strange that it almost seems like a different person. And I don't know how evident that is to people who aren't super close to me, but it is daily that I think about, where I'm at compared to where I was. Not just, mental health wise, but obviously, as I alluded, there was some significant physical stuff that we'll get into down the road, I'm sure. But all of that is taxing. And if I didn't have the outlets that I have, who knows? And I want other people to have this same outcome that I have. So really, thank you so much. If you're still listening, this is great. Please tune in for future episodes. I hope to bring you meaningful content and really get this conversation going. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. Thank you again for listening to the Twisted Remedies show. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share the show with anyone you think would benefit from the conversation. If you'd like to recommend a guest, a topic, or ask a question, please go to twistedremedies.com and connect with me there. Until next time.